Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Abdullah Barbouya. Today I will discuss about fixed capital and working capital. जैसे कि हम सब लोग जानते हैं बिजनेस में दो तरह का कैपिटल होता है, एक है फिक्स्ड कैपिटल और दूसरा है वर्किंग कैपिटल। तो आज हम इस वीडियो में जानेंगे अबाउट फिक्स्ड कैपिटल एंड वर्किंग कैपिटल। First of all, I would like to discuss the meaning of fixed capital. Fixed capital refers to the investment made by the business for acquiring long-term assets such as plant, machinery, land and building, furniture, etc. Or you can say fixed capital are those capital which are used for the purchase of fixed assets. यानी कि fixed assets खरीदने में जो capital लगता है उसको fixed capital कहते हैं। अभी fixed assets क्या है? Fixed assets are those assets from which we derive benefit for long. मतलब फिक्स्ड एसेट्स वो एसेट्स है जिससे हम लोगों को लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट मिलता है, जैसे कि लैंड से हम लोग को लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट मिलता है, जैसे कि बिल्डिंग से हम लोग को लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट मिलता है। इसी तरह फैक्ट्रीज, फर्नीचर, इक्विपमेंट, ये सब फिक्स्ड एसेट्स है क्योंकि इससे हम लोग को लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट मिलता है। अभी फीचर्स ऑफ फिक्स्ड कैपिटल। फर्स्ट फीचर इज फिक्स्ड कैपिटल इज परमानेंट पार्ट ऑफ कैपिटल and it is invested in fixed assets like plant, machinery, land and building. It is procured through raising of long-term financial sources like shares, debentures, etc. Factors determining requirement of fixed capital. First factor is nature of business. The fixed capital requirement of business depends upon the nature of business. If you are doing public utility undertakings such as electricity, water supply, railways, then you need more amount of fixed capital. And on the other hand, if you are doing trading business or financial firms, then you will require less amount of fixed capital. Again, if you are doing manufacturing industries, then it will require more amount of fixed capital. Next, size of business. The fixed capital requirement of enterprise are also influenced by the size of business. Generally, the large size of business require more amount of fixed capital. On the other hand, the small size of business require less amount of fixed capital. Next, production technique. It is also one of the important factor which influence the requirement of fixed capital in a business. If production methods are automatic, machine oriented or technology oriented, then more amount of fixed capital will be required. Again, if your production method is simple, there is no requirement of machinery, no requirement of technology, then less amount of fixed capital will be required. Next, diversification. Yes, diversification also influence the requirement of fixed capital. If you want to diversify your business, then more amount of fixed capital will be required. Or if you want to expand your business, then more amount of fixed capital will be required. Next and last one, mode of purchase of fixed assets. Yes, if fixed assets are purchased on cash basis, then large amount of fixed capital will be required. And if you want to purchase your fixed assets on hire purchase basis or installment basis or credit basis, then less amount of fixed capital will be required. Now, working capital. Working capital is the amount of funds necessary to cover the cost of operating expenses such as advertising cost, traveling cost, legal fees, etc. of the enterprise. मतलब एंटरप्राइज का जो ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस है उस ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस को कवर अप करने के लिए जो कैपिटल लगता है उस कैपिटल को वर्किंग कैपिटल कहते हैं। और यू कैन से वर्किंग कैपिटल इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन current assets and current liabilities. This is the feature of working capital. Working capital is temporary part of capital. It is very liquid in nature because it can be converted into cash within 1 year, and it is invested in current assets like cash at bank, bills receivable, debtors, etc. Now, this is the formula for calculating working capital. वर्किंग कैपिटल इज इक्वल टू करंट एसेट्स माइनस करंट लायबिलिटीज। जैसे कि हमने बताया पहले कि वर्किंग कैपिटल मींस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन करंट एसेट्स माइनस करंट लायबिलिटीज। तो अभी जानते हैं कि करंट एसेट्स क्या है। करंट एसेट्स वो एसेट्स है जो हम लोगों को जो मतलब विदिन 1 ईयर कैश पे कन्वर्ट कर सके। The assets which can be converted into cash within 1 year is called current assets. For example, debtors, cash at bank, cash in hand, finished goods. These are the current assets because these assets can be converted into cash within 1 year. Now, current liabilities क्या है? Current liabilities are those liabilities or those obligations which are due for payment within 1 year. मतलब जो liability है हम लोगों को एक साल के अंदर पेमेंट करना है, उस liability को current liability कहते हैं. For example, creditors, bills payable, advance from customers. These are the current liabilities. So if you want to calculate working capital, then we must have to deduct the current liabilities from the current assets. So by deducting the current liabilities from current assets, we will find the working capital. Now, what are the factors influencing the working capital requirement? Number one, nature of business. Yes, the working capital requirement of a farm basically depends upon the nature of business. If you are doing public utility undertakings like electricity, water supply and railways, then you need less amount of working capital. On the other hand, if you are doing trading companies or if you are doing manufacturing enterprise or manufacturing farms, then it will require more amount of working capital. Next, size of business. The working capital needs of an enterprise are also influenced by the size of business. If your business size is large, then more amount of working capital will be required, and if your business size is small, then less amount of working capital will be required. Then seasonal factor. Yes, seasonal factors also influence the working capital requirements. There are certain industries which have to purchase raw materials during a particular season. So for that industries, more amount of working capital will be required on that particular season because they will get their raw materials on a particular season. So on a particular season, they require more amount of working capital. And such industries require more amount of working capital. Next, credit policy. The credit policy of an enterprise in its dealings with debtors, creditors also influence the requirement of working capital. If an enterprise sell his goods to the customer on credit basis, then more amount of working capital will be required. And if the enterprise or businessman sell his goods to the customers on cash basis, then less amount of working capital will be required. On the other hand, if the businessman or enterprise purchase his goods from the supplier on cash basis, then more amount of working capital will be required. And if the enterprise purchase his goods from the supplier, then on cash basis, then less amount of working, more amount of working capital will be required. Next, inflation versus deflation. Yes, on the time of inflation, more amount of working capital will be required. In the time of deflation, less amount of working capital will be required, because we know in the time of inflation, the price of money, the value of money decreases, the price of goods increases, so more amount of working capital will be required. And at the time of deflation, the price of the value of money increases, the price of goods decreases, so less amount of working capital will be required. So थैंक यू सो मच. आज के लिए इतना ही, और बाकी जो टॉपिक है वो हम नेक्स्ट वीडियो में कवर अप करेंगे. सो कीप इन टच. थैंक यू.